Mark out your shoulder measurements divided by 2. Whatever your shoulder measurement gives you, divide it by 2 and mark on your pattern paper. Then you come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. You can see the picture illustration by the right side. That is because our shoulder is not straight, so we need to come down by 1 inch for a slant. You can also come down by 1.5 inch if you so wish. So at that point, I'll come down and mark my armhole measurement divided by 2, which is actually 8 inches, but I made mine 9 because I want it to be actually my shirt to be free on the arm area. So I'll connect that line together and I'll extend it to the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and mark from my shoulder to my bust measurement. I have a picture over there showing you all how to mark this perfectly on your body or how to take the measurements. I have a detailed video on how to draft out your basic bodies. Do well to check that as well. But for the sake of my beginners, let's go over it though, because that's what you gain from subscribing to my channel. So from the shoulder to the under bust, I'm going to mark. Mine is 40 inches. Do well to check yours. I have a picture illustration as well showing you all how to take yours. So this video is very detailed. It's a beginner's guide. No fear, no shake. We did for you. So the next line I'm going to be marking out is my shoulder to my waistline, So this waistline, like I explained in the detailed video on how to draft your basic bodies, can also serve as your half length. So I'm just going to connect that line straight and I'll indicate it as HL or waist. I'm going to indicate it as HL/W, which is for waist. So the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my hip line. You can come down from your waist measurement and mark 8, 9, 10 depending on how your hip measurement is placed, or you can just go ahead and mark from your shoulder to your hip, and mine gives me 25 inches. Yes. So the next thing I did was to mark out the full length of the blazer shirts, and yeah, we were good to go. So guys, let's go over to the top part and we'll mark out the armhole curve. So I'll place the tape on the armhole, which is 9 inches, fold it in 2, which is going to perfectly help me get my midpoint, and I'll mark the midpoint, guys. At that midpoint, I'm going to curve to the armhole line extension. As you can see in the video, I'm going to connect it like that with a curve, and we are good to go for the armhole. Mind you, this is the back of the back piece of my dress. I'm going to use as a template to cut the front piece, so there's no dart. I don't want mine to have a dart. So I'm going to mark my round measurements with the picture illustrations for the sake of my beginners. I did talk, see me going through all this stress. Meanwhile, I have a detailed video of all these things. Please subscribe. That is what you gain from subscribing to my channel. So divide your round measurements by 4 and apply them on the pattern paper and add how much allowance you want to add. Me, I added only half an inch. I know they waste time. I like work accurately. So my under bust measurement is the same as my half length measurement, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring it down, but do well to check yours because most times they might be different. So my hip measurements is 10.5 plus half inch sewing allowance is 11 inches, and I will mark it as seen. So I'm going to take my hip measurements including the sewing allowance down to my full length because this blazer is actually short. So there's no need to say you want to take 1 inch off. I'm using the same thing that I use for my hip measurement on the full length of the blazer. So I'll connect it with my marker as seen. And yes, guys, okay, I think there's one more thing, the neck. Now we come. So I'll use 3 inches for the neck width. Take note, these 3 inches we are using for the neck width is what we will use for the collar. So have it in mind, we'll use that 3 inches for the neck width for the collar. And then I marked 1.5 inch for the depth, connected it with a perfect clean curve. It is time to start cutting with our scissors. So I am back again, and it's time to cut out the front piece, the part that everyone thinks is the most complicated, but for me it's the easiest. And if you want to know how easy it is, keep watching, and don't forget to like if you haven't liked my video. So I told you I'll be using my back piece as a template to cut out my front piece, and I place it in such a way that at the center front I will have like 3 inches allowance or 3 inches space, and then at the top part I'm going to have up to like 5 inches space because I'm going to mark my collar. So I went in with another marker and then I drafted out the basic bodice. Very easy, abi. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the neck. For the neck depth I use 3 inches, and for the neck width I still use the same 3 inches that I use as the neck width of the back. Simple. You can use the same 3 inches if you want to, well, depending on you. So guys, remember my armhole measurement is 9. I'm divided by 2 gives me a 4.5 because I have to define the front armhole. Like I always say, we define the front armhole to avoid bulky fabric on that area. So I came in by half an inch, and then I'm going to connect that, as you can see, with the help of my curve ruler. So it forms a new curve, but a more defined curve, abi. So guys, to make the work easy, I'm not going to talk much here because I already drafted out the front piece. You already saw that one now, and I have a detailed video on how to draft out your basic body. So I'm just going to mark out my shoulder to my bust point, shoulder to my underbust, shoulder to my waistline, shoulder to my hip, and shoulder to the full length, and then I will mark it with a straight line because these lines are going to help me. There will be a great guide for me to do my princess that bustier, or whichever word you want to call it, and as well as to get my button band and the lapel of this beautiful blazer dress. So I went ahead to indicate what this line stands for, and you can see I indicated BP as bust point, F for the front armhole, SL for shoulder line, UB for underbust, HL for half length or waistline. So at the underbust I'm going to come down by 1 inch. You can actually take yours to the half length measurement if you want to, but I think I'm cool with working with that. And then I came out by 1.5 inch. Now I'm going to connect those lines. As you can see, I'll connect it down, making sure I have the same 1.5 inch down to the full length, which is going to serve as my button band. I'm going to use 1 inch for my button band and then half inch as sewing allowance for the button band. Simple. You will understand as we go on. So guys, the next thing I will be doing now is to mark my lapel. So if you haven't seen the video where I made a vintage shirt, do well to check it out because it's similar to this. So I extended my neck depth to meet the 3 inches that we left out for allowance. Well, I could go ahead to use the whole 3 inches, but I don't want my lapel collar to be so big, so I used 2 inches. For the vintage shirt I used the whole 3 inches and it was still looking perfect. Anyways, today I don't change my mind. I say make I use 2 inches. So I connected it as seen from the point where the button band ends to meet the 2 inches, and that is my lapel. So for the notch collar guys, I'm going to go in by 1 inch from where the lapel points start, and then I'll go up again, as you can see, by 1 inch. Now I'll connect those lines together to now give me a triangular form, making it look like a notch. You know when you're notching the allowance inside your clothes, see it now, it's looking like a notch now. That's why we call it notch collar, or you can call it a camp collar, whichever ways. So over to the 3 inches for the neck width of the back that I told you we'll be using for the collar, I'm going to add it to the shoulder measurement upwards. That is for the collar. I'm going to replace that 3 inches now. And then for the width of the collar, that's how wide this collar is going to be, I'm going to use 4 inches. Perfect, right? You can go ahead and use 5, no wahala. It's your clothes, so style it the way you want to, but I'm using 4 inches, which is perfect. Do well to use 4 inches if you want a perfect result like me. So I'll connect that line and then I'll close up that space, as simple as ABC. But not to worry, you all know I can go the extra mile for you all at any time. If you still need a more detailed video on how to draft this collar, let me know in the comment section. I'll put it out. So over to getting my princess that bustier, because that's what we'll be using for this. I will find my apex, or I will divide my underbust measurements, which is which is already divided by 4. I will still go ahead and divide it by another 2 inches, and I will get my apex measurement. But you can go ahead and place your tape with the picture illustration by the left. And yes, I'm going to mark that line from full length to hip line to half length to under bust to bust point. I'm going to mark my apex measurements up to that point. Now I'm going to connect with a curve to meet the midpoint of my armhole. I'm going to connect with a curve using my curve ruler as a guide. This front pattern is easy. You'll see that back, I was just wasting my time explaining. Anyways, I hope you all are being carried along. If you do not understand anything or you need a clearer explanation, still let me know in the comment section. I take kankpe for now. So I mark half an inch at both sides of the armhole point, and then I'll connect them with a swift and beautiful curve over to the bust point area. And yeah, let's just go gingerly. You can see how neat those curves are. So I'm still going to make sure that the curve points where at the bust point is not too sharp. So at my under bust, I'll come down by half an inch. Coming down by half an inch is not too necessary though, but I don't want mine to be too sharp. You will know what I mean. So I came down by half an inch, and then at the half length or waist area, I marked half inch apart from the center line. I did the same thing to the hip line, and I did the same thing to the full length of this dress. So I'm going to go ahead with my ruler and mark all the half inches at the left side together. Shebi you dey see. And then I'll do the same thing to the half inches at the right side. I'll connect all of them with a straight line as seen in the video. So from that half length on my waist, I'm going to mark it with a curve to meet that half inch. Now you know why I said I didn't want it to be too sharp, because if I connect it directly to the under bust, it will not be looking too sharp. So come down by half an inch, but if you trust your curving method, no problem. So I went ahead and I shade it out because I'm going to be cutting that part out. Now I'm going to replace what I'm going to cut out, which is 1 inch, because if I cut that part, as you know, 1 inch has already gone out from our accurate measurements because I use my back piece as a template. So I'm going to go ahead and replace everything that will cut out as seen. So I'm going to mark that down to my full length. And then at the armhole line, yes, I took half an inch from both sides, making it 1 inch. I'm going to replace the 1 inch, yes, and then I'll connect it to the under bust, as you can see how I connected them in the picture. So this process is quite easy for me. This is what I do most of the times. Honestly, I don't draft my back piece and come back to draft my front piece. I always use one as a template because time no deal. So guys, now that I'm done, I will cut out everything, cut my collar separately, and yes, so let me show you all what the lapel looks like fully, because it's like this lapel might not be making sense to some of you, but see how this plays out now. So I'll just mark a straight line or a slanted line from the shoulder or the neck width points, yes, where the shoulder starts from, down to the bottom band. And I think you are getting a better view of this now. So I'm going to fold this up, and this is what my lapel will look like by the time I must have sewn my clothes. I hope this is making a lot of sense now. And then by the time I now place my collar on it, do you see what oh my god, are you seeing what I'm saying? So guys, this is everything for the pattern paper, the drafting and all. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the princess line darts that we just drafted out, and yes, we'll go over and cut this on the fabric. So I'm going to indicate it as 1 and 2 because I'm going to split them and I don't want to start looking for who is who. Let everybody bear their father's name. So I just indicated them as 1 and 2, 1 for the center front and 2 for the cup. So it's time to cut on our fabric. So while cutting on your fabric, don't forget to add half an inch to the back piece, the center back, and as well as to add to where we cut out our darts from. I didn't mention that earlier, so do that. So I am done cutting and I cut my collar in two. That is because one will be serving as the main face and the other one will be serving as the lining. And then for the center front, that particular one that I indicated as number 1, I'm supposed to cut it in 2, but I cut it in 4 because two face is going to be for like the main face and two face is going to serve as the lining as well. So the cup, I cut the cup side in 2. I'm going to cut a lining for that, and then the back piece, which I added half inch sewing allowance at the center back while I was cutting because I didn't mention that earlier. So please do also add half inch sewing allowance while cutting yours. So I went ahead and I cut the linings for the ones that needed linings and the ones that are going to be using the main fabric as lining. This love go reach everybody, yo. The first thing I'll start sewing is the back piece. I'm going to sew up the half inch allowance that I added while cutting this on my fabric. I'm going to sew that up. Don't forget, I did not do any dart or nothing special for my back piece. That's because that was what I wanted. But do well to add your dart, so please, in case you want to, do what works for you. So I just finished sewing that up and you can see I left like 5 inches for slits for opening at the back. So now over to working on the front piece. I took one of the center front and I took one of the cups, and then I will also be doing the same thing to the other side as well, and I would also repeat the same method to the lining. Whatever I do to the main fabric, I would do it to the lining. So I place the cup right side facing her other or her better half, which is the center front, and I'm going to sew it up as indicated. Well, you will see how it plays out. Let's go. So just like I mentioned, I did what I did to the other side as well. So I'm going to place the back piece on the front piece and I'll sew up the shoulder and sew up the side, taking only half an inch because it was only half an inch I used for allowance, and I repeat the same process until lining. Now this is what it looks like on my mannequin. This is how the collar is placed, and this is what it looks like now that I've opened it. This is really beautiful. But well, let me finish up and then you will see for yourself. And this is what the lining looks like. So by the time I am opening up the collar, I will not have a black lining showing, rather I'll have the same fabric showing. That is why we use this fabric as lining for the center front. So now guys, I'm going to go ahead and attach my collar to both the main dress and to the lining as well, and that is why I cut my fabric into. So I'm going to notch the midpoints, and then I'll notch the midpoints of the neck of the dress and also I'll notch the midpoint of the lining. So the center back already has like a sewing line, so I won't have to notch it. I'm just going to go ahead and place it on the sewing line, and then I'll sew up the collar on my sewing machine. So I have attached the collar to the main fabric and this is what it looks like. So I'll also do the same thing to the lining. I'll attach the collar to the lining, and that is what we should have. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to cut out my sleeve. So I'll be using this method I usually like to call the lazy method, but trust me, it is very easy. So I'm going to take my main fabric and then I'll fold it up as seen. I'll make sure the shoulder point is on the folded side and the others and the armpit side is like on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead with my chalk and trace out that armhole line or the armhole curve. This is very easy, honestly. It doesn't waste time and it's very accurate as well. So for the type of sleeve that I'll be making, I'm not going to mark my armhole round, or I'm not going to take the bicep of my arm. I'm just going to go ahead and mark the full length of the sleeve, which is 23. That's what I want to use, but you can go ahead and use 26, 29, or you can use the full length of your sleeve of your hand measurements downwards, but this is what I want to work with. So I connected that as seen, and then I brought down that measurement straight without applying any sleeve round measurement. That is because I want this to have some kind of ruch effect at the ends, which I'm going to use my elastic to get. So I'm going to go ahead with my scissors and cut it out perfectly, and then I'm going to duplicate it for the second sleeve, and we are good to go, guys. So at the sleeve, I'm just going to reduce one of the sides, which is because that side is going to be for the front and the other side is going to be for the back. So do well to do this. I'm going to fold I'm going to hem up the ends, the sleeve ends. I'm going to hem it as seen, and once I am done doing that, you can see how beautiful this looks. I'm going to go ahead and mark the part which my elastic will be placed on. So I'm going to use 4 inches and I'll mark as seen, and I'll connect that together, which is going to give me a straight line. And you can see I already did that to the second part of the sleeve. So what I'm going to do now is to take out my elastic and I'll cut out my elastic to be 7 inches long, and that is what I'm going to use to get the ruch effect that I was talking about. But you all will see how it looks like at the end. You see how it plays out. You understand what I'm talking about. So I cut out my elastic in 7 inches and I cut another one for the second sleeve because the sleeves are 2. And yes, guys, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and then I will sew this on the fabric, on the wrong side of the fabric. Please do not sew this on the wrong side of the fabric. So guys, now I am done sewing this up and this is what it looks like. You can see the effect. I use my normal butterfly sewing machine, not even an industrial machine. So you can see you can create this effect by yourself as well. So I did the same thing to the second sleeve, and then I'm going to close this up using 1/2 inch to close it up from upwards downwards. So this elastic has given my sleeve some kind of fitting that I actually like. And yes, guys, let's go. I've sewn up the 1/2 inch that I said I was going to sew for the sleeve, and I just flip this over so we can have a look at what the sleeves look like, and you can see how this looks. So yes, guys, next thing we are going to do now is to work on the main body. So I took out the lining of the dress and then I took out the main fabric. So I'll place them on each other, right face facing the right face. Make sure the right face is facing the right face. And then I'm going to sew along as indicated. I'm going to sew from the collar to the center front to the base of the dress, all round. I'm going to like lock up every single thing, sew everything up except the armhole. So I'm going to use the armhole to pull out what is left of this, guys, so we don't have any rough edge or loose ends showing out. That is why I use this process. But you can also just sew this up normally and like join both the main fabric and the lining together and sew up together, and then you can just go ahead and weave this. So now I'm done sewing up what I'm supposed to sew up, and I'm notching all the edges so I can have a clean edge. Guys, this process is really easy and neat. I'm not going to lie, it's very very easy and neat. So I'm going to pull out every ends well with the help of my scissors. I'm just going to pull it all out, and I'm going to iron this so you all can see what the final result looks like. So last but not the least, I'm going to attach my sleeve, as you can see. So I noticed this whole this tutorial is quite long, and that is because it has both the pattern drafting and the sewing version in one. So I'm thinking I would just like split up my videos in two, so it's not too long, and then it saves time for my upload. Like, you get, like, so my upload doesn't delay, like I get to deliver at the right time. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do well to give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe. If you are new here, welcome to the family. I know I didn't do a proper intro, but here it is, guys. Thank you all for watching my videos. Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for sharing, because this has helped YouTube recommend my videos a lot, and I really appreciate all your engagement on my channel. So guys, once I am done attaching this sleeve, I'm just showing you what it looks like, and I'm just going to do that off camera. I'll attach it off camera, do the same thing to the second sleeve, and I'll show you all the results of our blazer after I have ironed.